And now, it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Ben Anderson rolling solo today. Jake Scott is out for the week, but let's hope he's back next week, surviving the Disney cruise. We have Jeremiah Jensen joining us right now, actually live on the Air Link, meaning you can find him on YouTube if you are streaming the show today. JJ, you still in San Francisco?
I am still here, sitting in the hotel room, trying to, recover from whatever yesterday was. That was quite an experience at Super Bowl 60.
Yeah, you were there yesterday. What was your day like before we get into the actual game? Because that might have been the least interesting part of the entire day. How early did you have to get there? What is going to a Super Bowl like, or covering it like, as a media member?
Well, it depends on the location, because there's some places that have more traffic than others. But we had a media hotel in downtown San Francisco, and that's where a lot of the activities this week took place. But for those that know, the stadium's in Santa Clara, which is an hour drive south of downtown San Francisco. And so we had to get up actually early not like super early in the morning, but for media people, early in the morning. We had to leave here about 10:30 Pacific time to get down there in time to be in place to actually go through all the security stuff and get into the place and do our jobs. So we were in traffic for 2 hours.
Wow.
It was crazy trying to get, and it's fine until you get close to the stadium, and then it gets completely shut down. We went down a road where we got stuck behind the team buses. So, the police do the police escort, and they shut everything down. So we had to just sit there for 30 minutes while they tried to get these teams out of the team hotel and over to the stadium. So you do that, you go through security, which is crazy because all these people are trying to get in there. It's a madhouse, but it's fun, and the environment is crazy. It's a great celebration. You get in there, you feel the energy. It's awesome, but it is a long day, and I think that everybody that goes and is involved in it feels that. But it's quite a process getting to the Super Bowl and getting in there, and then you witness just how hard it is to pull off this entire operation. It's quite a spectacle seeing everything come together, but when it does, there's no better show in sports, man. The Super Bowl is unbelievable.
I don't know how many listeners recognize how many games I'm sure you've covered. I've definitely covered all-star games, summer league games. A lot of it, honestly, you're not actually out on the field or out on the court. You are doing prep work, or you're trying to, you just recognize you might get a better view of the TV in the media room than you do actually being out there on the field. So how much time did you spend in the actual open stadium watching the game? How much could you actually see?
Yeah, I had a seat up in the auxiliary. It was pretty up high, but I actually had a good seat. One of the best seats I've had at a Super Bowl. And I'll tell you, the whole setup was great this year. I thought that Levi's Stadium did a great job, really, really accommodating everybody, including fans, media. It was a great setting. So I did have a place to sit down and watch. I have been to Super Bowls, Ben, where it's like I'm just going to go to the media room and watch.
Yep.
I can't see what's going on. So you're right. But this Super Bowl in particular was really well put together, really well organized, and it was awesome. And unfortunately, the game itself probably didn't meet the hype of the moment because the setting was great, the crowd was great, all of it was pretty great. So the game itself, that's a different story.
As far as the crowd goes, are there fan bases there, or is it just, hey, we got a Super Bowl ticket, so we have to go, or is it hardcore travelers?
Look, you've got that corporate feel to it, right? In the big seats. I can't imagine who can afford those. But man, Ben, you walk in there and the sea of fans, people wearing jerseys, is unbelievable. You got to understand, somehow some of these people are so hardcore. And you're a Seahawks fan. Patriots fans have been to the Super Bowl 12 times. But the Seahawks, they've only been to 3 Super Bowls in their entire history. And so when they get there, they're way into it. That's a passionate fan base. The 12 is a big deal for a reason. Yeah. And it's not that far from the Northwest to come down here and travel for it. And they brought their fans, man. They really traveled well. And that's what there is a corporate feel to it, but the amount of fans that are willing to pay the Super Bowl prices for a once in a lifetime bucket list opportunity and to go there, and for Seahawks fans, to be able to celebrate a Super Bowl like that is pretty special. They pay a pretty penny. I don't even know how much. I mean, there's people that are paying $5,000-$6,000 for a ticket. It's insane. But yeah, Ben, I mean, you would think that this has become so corporate, but you'd also be blown away by the amount of passionate fans that are there wearing their jerseys, just packed with real hardcore fans that didn't want to miss this moment.
Well, I do think we got a real taste of what the game was going to be like in the first quarter, and I know it was only 3-0, but it felt like the most lopsided 3-0 game I had seen. I mean, Seattle looked relatively in control, other than the offense couldn't, push the ball past the goal line, but it didn't look like the Patriots were able to move the ball at all. Was that youth from Drake May? Was that out coaching? Because Vrabel's a very good coach. I was really hyping him going into this game. What did you see actually being there?
The Seahawks are that much better. The Seahawks are dominant. You look at what the Seahawks have done this season, and playing honestly, Ben, that was the hardest division in football. You look at after it's all played out, right? You've got Seahawks, Rams, and a 49ers team that, even though they were beat up, still made it into the playoffs, won a playoff game, and had a phenomenal season. And the only team that could shut them down was the Seahawks, and they obviously were able to do that. But that was the toughest division in football. And the Seahawks went through a gauntlet in the NFC. You look at the other side, and everybody talked about this and was wondering, was the Patriots' soft schedule going to hurt them at some point? And I think it did in this Super Bowl. They were not prepared for the physicality and for what they were going to see in this game. You can look at how weird the Broncos game was in the conference championship game, the weather and all that. How worthy of a champion would the Patriots been compared to what the Seahawks are? The Seahawks defense was unbelievable. They have a great offensive line. They can run the football. Sam Darnold, is he top 10 in the league now as a quarterback? You can have that debate. I don't know that Sam Darnold was amazing in this game, but he took care of the football, and he was consistent throughout the postseason, and he got the job done for this team that just needed stability at that position, right? They had so many other weapons. You had such great receivers and good tight ends and a great offensive line. You just needed to take care of the football and be stable on offense and let that defense do its thing. And that defense is one of the best defenses that I think we've seen in football. And they proved it on the biggest stage. The dark side was living up to that name, and they were awesome in that game and proved everybody just how good they were. The Patriots, it's kind of like not ready for prime time, right? You see the elements that they had, and they made a great run, and Drake May is going to have a great career. And there's a lot of good things about the Patriots, and give them credit for, in a short period of time, being able to make it back to a Super Bowl. It says a lot about that organization. But there's a gap between the Seahawks and Patriots, and it was evident in that game from the first quarter on, and that was just pure domination. That game was never in doubt for 1 second.
Because sports organizations, front offices are generally pretty uncreative, it's just a copycat business, and that's every sport. That's football, that's basketball, that's baseball, that's soccer, etc. Are we going to see teams try and replicate what Seattle did, which is load up on defense, find the veteran quarterback who's proven a little bit that he's capable of winning at a high level like he did last year in Minnesota? Is that selling Sam Darnold short? Do you think that's maybe a better strategy and always should be a strategy people go for? Or do you think it was a weird year where the best quarterbacks in the league got hurt or just didn't play well, and it'll open up kind of a gap for a team like Seattle to win?
Well, it was an interesting year, Ben, and I was thinking about this earlier. You had a year where the Chiefs fell off after a decade of dominance. Their greatest challengers, the Ravens and the Bills, took a step back, fired their coaches. So a window opened for somebody else to become the best team, to become the elite. Even the Eagles, you can argue, took a step back this year and weren't the same team that they had been in this run that they've had of going to Super Bowls. So there was a vacuum of excellence. Somebody could step up, and the Seahawks did that. They took advantage of that, and they did it with defense. And so, to your point, is it a copycat league? Absolutely. This has always been the case. You know, you've seen electric offenses come along. You know, remember the Rams of 25 years ago came along, and then all of a sudden there was these defenses that tried to figure out how to stop what they were doing. You know, that the list goes on and on and on of, you know, one team figuring something out and then another. And everyone's been trying to figure out the Chiefs for the last decade, and age finally caught up with them. but there's always a response. And I look around the league right now, Ben, and I think the teams that are best positioned to win have exactly the elements that the Seahawks have. I'll mention some. The Jacksonville Jaguars. There's a team that not a lot of people talk about, but that is a team that has a phenomenal defense. Trevor Lawrence was kind of like maybe a little bit more explosive because of his ability to run the football, but kind of like Sam Darnold was this year, where he gives you something solid at that quarterback position that you can count on, and then you let your defense do its thing. The Denver Broncos are another example of that, Ben, where you got Bo Nix, you've got that offense that is not dynamic. They're not lighting up the scoreboard, but their defense is giving them time and opportunity to be able to do what they need to do. But that Broncos defense is built to win championships. And so you start looking around the league, what team looks like Seattle right now? And I just threw out two of those in the AFC. And one would argue that under different circumstances, either the Jaguars or the Broncos probably would have been a better competitor to the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. But because of different circumstances, and to give the Patriots credit, they took advantage of those opportunities, but the Patriots found a way to take advantage of them and got there. So in the future, I think you're looking at some of those teams I mentioned as their biggest challengers in the AFC. And I think the Eagles can get back to being what the Seahawks were. And you look back at the Eagles, and that's what they were. You know, they had that offense was not, it was not a track meet, right? You had a really strong, tough quarterback that made plays and took what the defense gave them. They had the push so they could get a yard when they needed to, and that defense was dominant. That seems to be the recipe in the NFL because everyone's playing that two safety high. You know, it's really hard to really be explosive. And so if you have an offense that can pick its spots, get explosive plays, and have a defense that can shut down the explosive plays, that's how you win in the NFL. It's all about the explosive plays and being able to contain them or make them on offense. And the teams that do that best are the ones that can break through. There's and I think the Packers are positioned potentially to be one of those teams. I think the Bears could be as they get their defense better. They've got a quarterback now that they believe in an offense. So there's some teams out there that will challenge the Seahawks. I don't know if this is the start of a type of a dynasty, and the Seahawks have some personnel issues they're going to have to address in the offseason. They may lose some of these guys, but for now, the Seahawks are the model. And man, it was quite a show they put on Super Bowl Sunday. That was a very, very dominant performance. One of the most dominant performances we've seen over the last decade in the Super Bowl.
Dominant defense, great running back. That could have been last year with the Eagles with Saquon Barkley. That could have been, this year with the Seahawks. You're right. The Texans, you look at teams like that could maybe jump up.
Another team. That's another team to keep your eye out on, yep.
Great defense, pretty good quarterback. You get that running back that moves the ball consistently. I mean, that's a move towards old school football almost, and I'm not going to pretend anyone stops throwing the ball the way they do now. Right. And you have to be able to pass for 25 to 30 touchdowns. Even Darnold's numbers look prolific compared to what we saw, in the mid-'90s or early '90s. But, maybe maybe the pendulum's swinging back away from the 4,000-yard quarterback.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, there's still you look at the Rams, and maybe that's an offense. They came up just short, but that team pushed the Seahawks to the brink twice back in 3 matchups. So and beat the Seahawks this year, by the way. So the Rams are still that formidable offense, and they have Stafford, who's the league MVP. And to your point, Ben, there's not many offenses that could light it up and at that level, and Stafford was rewarded for that by winning the league's MVP. So, maybe that's the challenge here is for a team to find something offensively to be able to combat some of these teams with that combination of great defense and solid offense that we talked about. And the Rams, maybe, I worry because Stafford's a little older, but they've got a lot of young guys on that team. Puka Nacua is a young player. They're going to have to figure out a way to pay him here soon, but they got a lot of nice young pieces. Their running backs are young. So maybe the Rams are that team, and the 49ers probably have the ability to be that offensively with McCaffrey and some of the weapons they have, but you've obviously seen them take a little bit of a step back because of the injuries. So I think there are some offenses that could emerge because for every thing that works well in the NFL, there's always a counter. There's always somebody that's going to come up with a way to figure it out and beat it. And that's why we love watching this game, because the strategy that goes on, the scheming that goes on in the NFL is just something to behold. And, someone's going to figure it out.
You can't solve the sport. That's why we like it. If you solved it, it would be predictable and easy, and that's never been the case. Okay, you mentioned 2 teams that I think are interesting, and we can bring this even back to a Jazz conversation, which is if you're old enough, every Jazz fan looks at either 94, 95, or 93, 94, as those gap years where Jordan wasn't in the NBA, is that's when the Jazz should have won their title and Houston wins both, or 2000 after Jordan retires, or 99 and it's the lockout shortened year and you think that was their opportunity. And they haven't really gotten that good of an opportunity where the league opened up and they were one of the best teams. Who in the NFL is having that season this year? You mentioned both the Ravens and the Bills. I think those are good names. Is there somebody who's going to look back at not winning the Super Bowl this season and think, wow, that was our chance. I can't believe we blew it?
The Buffalo Bills. The AFC was wide open, Ben. The Ravens took a step backwards. The Ravens got old fast. And all these other teams in the AFC, the Patriots, Jags, Broncos were up and coming, really impressive regular seasons, but they were young and inexperienced in the playoffs. That Buffalo Bills team was built to win the whole thing. They were all in, and for them to come up short, for them to turn the ball over 5 times in a game against the Broncos, a game that honestly, I'm saying this as a Broncos fan, the Bills should have won that game. The Bills should have won that game, and if the Bills win that game, they're probably in the Super Bowl. This was their opportunity. This was their window, and I think that's why their coach got fired. I think that their ownership and those in charge there realized, like, we should have won this. This was our year, and we blew it. We got to go back to we got to go back to figuring out what happened here, where are our weaknesses, and try to fix it. But we should have been the team. We had the people. We had the quarterback. We had the returning MVP in the league, and we couldn't even get past the Broncos in a playoff game and get to the AFC Championship game. With the Chiefs gone as well, the Bills are that team, Ben. The Bills missed their window of opportunity. I don't know if they're going to be able to get it back because they're going to bring in a new coach who's inexperienced. He's their offensive coordinator. I get the continuity part. That's great. But they're aging as well on the defensive side, and I'm not sure the Bills are going to get that opportunity. I think their window is past them. If they're going to keep that window going, to your Jazz point, they're going to have to make some kind of acquisition. Who is their Jeff Hornacek that's going to help them open up a new window? Or, what is that thing that's going to help them? I don't know what that is right now, but the Bills were the team that blew it in my mind. The Bills, this was the year, this was their opportunity, and they dropped the ball, literally.
Good NFL season, bad NFL season?
Great NFL season. I thought the fact that the Chiefs weren't, we went into the postseason.
Is this a Broncos fan talking, or is this an actual unbiased media member talking?
Okay, let me step away from my biases here. Now, I say the Chiefs as a Broncos fan, but Ben, the Chiefs have dominated this league for a decade.
Yeah.
Whether they won the Super Bowl or not was that some they won some, they lost some, but they were always there. In fact, you go back and since 2010, there's been only the Patriots. So the Patriots or the Chiefs, Ben, made the AFC Championship game every year, going all the way back to 2010 when the Steelers and Jets played in it. That's just 2 franchises dominating a conference for a period of 15 years. And so this year, I know the Patriots got to the Super Bowl, but this was not the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick Patriots. It's a new regime. This year felt really fresh. It felt different. I thought that the AFC and the NFC, there was new blood. Even the Eagles, weren't the dominant force that they have been in the NFC. It was an unpredictable season. I think there were incredible games, Ben. If you look back on the season, there were some incredible comebacks. There was great theater in the league this year of games that went down to the fourth quarter and you had some team come from behind. There were so many great finishes. Remember all the Bears finishes, the Caleb Williams games, the way he finished some games. And there's some really good young stars in the league. And you look around and how many of those quarterbacks that made the playoffs this year, I'll include Justin Herbert in that. There's young quarterbacks that are taking over this league now. And you look at the list, and it's an impressive list of young talent at the quarterback position, Drake May and Bo Nix. And I think that there's a lot of guys in the mix now, just Trevor Lawrence. The list goes on of guys that are less than 5 years in the league that won a lot of games this year. And those guys are going to get better. And, I think you could still – Lamar and Josh Allen are still the same age as Sam Darnold. I mean, there's still some young quarterbacks with a lot of good years in this league. You're going to see some exciting play from the quarterback position. I think there's a lot of cool things that are happening with the way that teams use analytics to decide what they do. We've seen a lot more going for it on fourth down. I think that's exciting. No one wants to watch a punt although you saw a lot of punting in the Super Bowl on Sunday. For the most part, teams have been very bold in the calls they're making and the choices they're making. It's made for a more entertaining NFL. And so this season was a lot of fun for me to watch, not just as a Broncos fan, but as an NFL fan to see the league and see some of these games. You can tune in on every Sunday or even some Monday nights. You had some wild finishes. Even the Thursday night games were better, honestly. I think the Thursday night football has a bad reputation on those short weeks of being bad, but there were some good Thursday night football games this year. So it was a good year for the league, and it's a good year for football fans. I thought it was a great year in the NFL.
Jeremiah, great stuff on your coverage from San Francisco. Thanks for jumping on. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
There he is, Jeremiah Jensen. Catch him every day right here, 3 to 6 with Alex on JJ and Alex. Good stuff. Boring Super Bowl game overall. We'll talk more about that coming up next in the top 3 stories. But I'm curious. I'm curious what Christian has to say. Good NFL season or bad NFL season. We'll talk about that next with the top 3 stories. Stick around. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The best blanket ever is also the best Valentine's gift ever. Exclusive Valentine's blankets only available at Minky Couture. My son was wrapped up in one all night last night during the Super Bowl. Loved it. Heavy and very soft. Everything you're looking for. Save 50% right now using the promo code ZONE50 at Minky Couture stores and online. MinkyCouture.com. ZONE50. Get 50% off. All right, it's time for your top 3 stories at KSLSports.com. Brought to you by our friends at J. Brooks Jewelers. J. Brooks, cherish your loved ones with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials with 2 locations up and down the Wasatch Front. Also, a fabulous idea for Valentine's Day. Not too late. Go check them out today. Christian, where are we starting today?
Number 1, we got the Jazz at the Heat tonight. And Ben, over the weekend, we got the first taste of Jaren Jackson Jr. in a Jazz uniform.
I thought he was fabulous. If you watched the game on Saturday, very highly anticipated. I tweeted out this had to be one of the most highly anticipated games for the Jazz, and I can't remember how long. And some fans said the last time the Jazz were in the playoffs, their last playoff loss to the Dallas Mavericks. Bojan Bogdanovic misses the potential game-tying 3 in the corner. And the Jazz really haven't been back since then. But Jaren Jackson Jr. came out and was really just had a very strong outing. Though he finished the night with 22 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, which, by the way, Jazz fans, get used to that stat line. He is a scorer. He is not a rebounder. He's an okay passer. He's not a great passer. But he did also add 3 steals. He did not have a block in this game, but you certainly saw his impact on the defensive side of the ball. But offensively, I thought he was really good. And I do think he offers something that the Jazz don't have, which is just somebody who is much bigger and much stronger than the guy who's guarding him. And while Nurk is much heavier than most people guarding him and thus much stronger, he's not a great finisher. We've seen his shooting percentage at the rim this year. He misses a lot of layups, speaking of Yusuf Nurkic. And Lauri Markkanen is all athleticism. You know, his best skill is moving off the ball with his speed and his size. But Lauri is really not going to push through anybody. He's not going to back anybody down. It was pretty amazing to watch how often the Jazz crossed half court, just gave the ball to Jaren Jackson Jr., and he just bodied guys. I mean, he just moved them out of the way, almost like a defensive tackle, or a really strong interior offensive lineman, just moving dudes out of the way to get where he wanted to on the court. And then he's got that little push shot, and Will Hardy talked about it after the game. It's just such a weapon. His touch around the rim is really, really good. So when you can get to your spots on the floor with ease, and you don't have to draw up all these plays, which is something the Jazz have done historically, and we'll have to talk about this more coming up at 11 o'clock, but when you don't have to run anything complicated, and the Jazz had so many turnovers in this game, it almost goes back against what I'm saying. But when you can go down on your offensive side of the ball and give the ball to Jaren Jackson Jr. when he has a mismatch because somebody got matched up with Lauri Markkanen, thinking that that's how they've traditionally guarded the Jazz, and now he's got somebody who's smaller than he is or just not a very good defender, he will take you into the paint, off the dribble, from the three-point line, and then just put you in the basket. And not with a big dunk, but he just has really nice touch around the rim. So he'll push it off the backboard, just a little floater or push shot in the hoop, and it's just really easy. And that's something the Jazz, watching this game, I realized they just have not had an easy offense. They've had an effective offense. They've just not had an easy offense most nights, and I thought that was really revealing.
And the big thing, we had a lot of Memphis guys on the station last week, not just with you and Jake, but throughout the station. a lot of people are really excited to see what Jaren Jackson Jr. looks like as the third option for the Jazz. Because in Memphis, he was asked to carry a pretty big offensive load, especially because Ja was missing so much time with injuries and suspensions and stuff.
Yeah.
But with the Jazz, ideally, if Key is hot and Lowry is hot, you're not having to rely on Jaren Jackson Jr. But as the third option, I mean, clearly he can do like heavy damage.
Yeah, and what's interesting now for Lowry, and Lowry's A-plus offensive player. Like, he's really a phenomenal offensive player. But I can't tell you how many game stories I've written about the Jazz where it's Lowry has 25 points, but the Jazz went 4 minutes in the fourth quarter from the 6-minute mark to the 2-minute mark where Lowry just didn't touch the ball. And he's on the court, and he's obviously the number one option for the team, and he doesn't touch the ball because he has to have shots created for him. Now, once he touches the ball, he can shoot over anybody. But because he plays off the ball so much, he has to run around, he has to get open, you have to run stuff for him to get him open. It's almost a secondary action. With Jaren Jackson Jr., the Jazz just ran down and they just pitched him the ball as soon as they got across half court. And he says, okay, I'll go to work. And while it's a little more boring to watch, in all honesty, and it's going to result in some possessions where if they don't score, people will be like, Jaren Jackson probably should have passed there. That was maybe a little bit of a one-pass clunky performance. You need those. And in the fourth quarter, those become really valuable because it's hard to deny the ball to somebody who's one pass away, especially when the defense has to account for Lauri Markkanen so much. So when Keontae comes back, and it's another part of this, he got hurt again in this game, but when Keontae George is back, we're talking next year really, and Lowry's playing at full strength, and Jaren Jackson Jr. has been incorporated, that's where I think actually offensively the Jazz are going to get most interesting is when they can go to Jaren Jackson late in the game to create a bucket, which is not what Lowry excels at. And if they sell out to deny him, which is double teaming off the ball, whatever they want to do, commit an extra defender, then Lowry becomes even more dangerous. And there's a lot more ways that I thought Lowry was really good, hence finishing with 27 points. But so was Jaren Jackson Jr. It was an overall good performance, and I think the Jazz would be very thrilled that they sat those guys in the fourth quarter and blew a 17-point lead and still picked up the loss.
And yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about that later because that did stir some controversy around the NBA sphere because of the tank job that the Jazz did with that fourth quarter. But yeah, man, it's tough. I don't know how many games we're going to see with those three, talking about Key, Lowry, and Jaren Jackson Jr. all on the floor, especially with Keontae's injury, TBD on how long he's going to be out with that. Kevin Love, out tonight, no revenge game for him against the Heat.
He had this weird thing where though he had returned to Cleveland earlier this year, Kevin Love got his first kind of like honorary welcome back to Cleveland game when the Jazz were there on their last road trip. So like Kevin Love hadn't been honored yet by the Cavs because he just plays so rarely. And he missed a lot of time last year with the loss of his father. But yeah, he hadn't done like a lot of like return games. So I'll be curious how Miami honors him tonight, returning for the first time. Since having like a pretty good run. He didn't have an elite run in Miami, but pretty good. But yeah, he's not going to be available, nor is Keontae George because of the injury. We'll talk about that more coming up at 11 o'clock. What's next?
It is official. Sam Darnold now with the Super Bowl win. I guess you could say he doesn't suck anymore.
I don't know if watching that game would tell you that. Not that he played poorly by any means. I mean, Drake May truly played awful. I thought Drake May had a couple of good passes, but was just missing guys. I mean, he really was quite poor and had the 2 turnovers. Or the 2 interceptions plus the fumble. But I thought Darnold was the pure representation of the climb being better than the apex. The apex for Sam Darnold last night, I don't think was particularly memorable. He had one good throw that resulted in a touchdown, but like he didn't win the Super Bowl MVP. If you were waiting for the breakout performance, like, oh yeah, he actually is that first round pick dude, top 5 overall pick. What pick was he? 3rd overall. Like, if you were waiting for that on the biggest stage, he didn't show it. You didn't get that from Sam Darnold. The story is a bum with the Jets, bad location, didn't work out with Carolina, back up in San Francisco, overlooked by Minnesota, underappreciated, and then, yes, wins it all with Seattle. I do think that's the storyline more so than can you believe how good he was in the Super Bowl? And that will always follow him, which is good enough, and that's great, and he's going to have this crown jewel. Christian, what I did think, though, my takeaway is I don't know if what happened this year in the NFL has any impact on what happens the rest of the future, for the future of the NFL. I don't think anything that happened this season is going to impact next season in the slightest.
You mean nobody's going to say, oh, let's build out the rest of our roster and then get an average to slightly above average quarterback, and that's how we're going to win it?
No, I think teams will try to replicate that. I do think that's stupid because what is going to happen is you're going to have a team, like we mentioned, the Texans or the Eagles or whoever gets back to a high level. Let's say it's a conference championship game, or maybe it is the Super Bowl. And they're going to get beat by an elite quarterback because, truthfully, if Drake May had been able to do anything right, the Patriots have a great chance to win that game because, again, going into the fourth quarter, it's 12-0. It's not like that was a blowout. It felt like a blowout because the Patriots were so benign. They were just so bad all game offensively. If you had a quarterback who could deliver on a few of those throws, that game looks totally different. And we're saying, yeah, Super Bowl MVP for the New England Patriots, insert name here, anybody other than Drake May. And so when that inevitably happens next season, everybody's going to say, that's why you got to have the quarterback. That's why you got to have the guy. It just so happened that we ended up with two relatively mediocre quarterbacks going head-to-head. So one elite defense did change the game. Now, elite defenses change games even against elite quarterbacks. We saw that with the Patriots and the Giants twice. We've seen it over and over and over where just because you have the great quarterback doesn't necessarily guarantee you a victory. But in this game last night, I thought a good quarterback would have made all the difference for the Patriots, and they just didn't have it. Drake May's just not at that level yet.
And that's why Trent Dilfer and, Nick Foles are such big anomalies because for, I guess, 60 Super Bowls now, 58 of those 60 Super Bowls, or I guess you could say 57 of those 60 Super Bowls have been won by a elite or high-level quarterback. There are just a few very rare instances where everything else goes right.
Yes.
But you don't need the elite quarterback. But, like I said, everything else has to go right. I mean, the Seahawks were a very healthy team coming into this. I know Charbonnet,
right,
their number 2 running back who got a lot of goal line carries. He was out with the torn ACL, but Kenneth Walker, clearly showed why he's an elite talent at the running back. JSN, Offensive Player of the Year, and then a phenomenal defense, right?
And I tweeted out, it was almost a Utah-like victory. It was a Kyle Whittingham-like win, right? You're up 12-0, and you're winning because your kicker's not missing field goals. And I'm talking Witt 5 or 6 years ago when Utah was trying to win on the edges. They were finding ways to get to conference championship games or win 8, 9, 10 games by winning in areas where other teams don't because other teams get elite quarterbacks or have elite skill position players outside of the running back. And Utah's winning with field goals, great punting, and a good enough running back or a very good running back. And that's what Seattle did last night. But Utah's bane was always, oh man, if we just had the quarterback, then we could compete at the highest level. Most teams still want to get the quarterback. Seattle didn't have the quarterback, so they had to go win with defense, a great running back, and great special teams. And they have it. We didn't see Rashid Shaheed really shine in this game, but he has throughout the playoffs, and he has since that midseason trade where how many punt returns or kick returns for touchdowns they had? Was it 3 already this season? They had one in the playoffs. So it's great. And we have experience seeing how you can win locally with that formula. But truthfully, you're going to run into a team like Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, and they're just going to beat you because the quarterback and wide receiver combination is just better. So while the Seahawks, you get your Super Bowl forever, Sam Darnold's enshrined forever, I don't know if that changes the way the NFL performs going forward. And I think you're right. Random year where the Chiefs are down, Mahomes gets hurt, Bills take a bizarre step backwards, Ravens just not out there, couldn't quite get Lamar Jackson at full strength seemingly throughout the year. And it's just a gap season to me more than an indicator of what's to come in the NFL. All right, what's next?
Number 3, Team USA taking on Switzerland today. Hockey.
Women's hockey. The men are arriving. We were wondering last year, and that by the way, I'm not trying to demean the women's hockey team. They just crushed Finland 5-0, I think, to open the tournament. And they're going to continue, and I think they're going to win this tournament, which is great. I thought they were one of the most exciting aspects of the Winter Olympics 4 years ago. But the men are starting to arrive. We had talked last week, are we going to see Clayton Keller walking with Team USA? Truth is no. Most of the NHL players hadn't gotten there yet, including some of the teams I think were still playing on Thursday. So to fly out and try and make it by Friday morning early for the opening ceremonies was just not going to happen. Did you watch a lot of Olympics over the weekend? Were you able to catch any? I know you were working.
Saw Lindsey Vohn's wipeout. That was unfortunate. Saw some curling, saw some snowboarding action.
Yeah. Had fun so far. Lindsey Vonn, unfortunately, going in as maybe the biggest star of the Olympics for Team USA, and to go out so horribly was really difficult. So, broken leg. Was it the same leg that she tore the ACL on? I could not figure out which leg she tore the ACL on. I'll have to look. and find it officially.
It was her left leg.
She broke
with the
her
torn
left
ACL,
leg.
and I do believe that was the same leg she broke. Yeah.
Okay. So just a brutal finish. I suspect we will see her move on to media, and I think she'll be really good in the Olympics going forward. I'd love that if we could see that in her, commentating during downhill going forward. But sending all the best to Lindsay, a person who resides here in Utah. So very, very rough there. But, yeah, the men are starting to arrive for the U.S. men's team. In fact, cool photo this morning. Ryan Smith was in Italy to welcome Clayton Keller when he landed. So kind of a cool story there. I have to keep an eye on how much Clayton plays coming up. I think their first game is on the 12th, so coming up in a few days here. All right, we'll talk a little bit more about the Super Bowl coming up next. Stick around. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson
1, 2, 3, move it.
on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Talk to Kevin Sweeney coming up in about 10 minutes. Give us a breakdown on college football, college basketball, big picture landscape. What's going on with BYU? What is happening? Lost 4 straight, 5 of 6. Can they turn it around? And what have we learned about A.J. DeBonce and this team? How far can they go in the tournament? We'll talk with Kevin about that coming up, like I said, in about 10 minutes. KSL Sports Zone and Beehive Meals are honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week at kslsports.com/contest. Listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. It's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. Christian, did you watch Benito yesterday, or were you a Kid Rock guy?
No, I was tuned into Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny's real name is Benito. That's what he's called back home in Puerto Rico. I just like saying the word Ben a lot. Second most famous Ben, Bad Bunny. Shout out to him. I thought he was a little tame. I thought he was a little G-rated, which, you know what? He was painted in a very difficult corner going into this game. There was controversy surrounding the fact that he was going into the game, that he was going to be the performer, that I think he was almost cornered to be non-controversial. And he's actually not particularly controversial on stage in general. Like, his shows are not particularly wild, from my understanding. My wife has been to one of his shows. It's not insane. But I didn't think there was nothing flamboyant, I actually thought, throughout the entire performance in general. I thought it was a little Disney coded for me.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice from the start at first, but then you thinking about it, and he is like the most popular artist in the entire world right now. So if you look at how much the NFL is trying to grow the game internationally and not just catering to the United States fans, I guess that's why they make that move. We're talking about a guy who is more popular than Taylor Swift even over the last 2 years, and that's crazy to say worldwide. But yeah, it was a fun performance. I mean, I have seen videos. Sounds like the people at the stadium, it was kind of hard to tell what was going on with all the trees and stuff going on. But I thought it was fun. I thought it was very entertaining.
It was very communal is what it felt like. It felt community-based. It felt like it was about showing off Puerto Rico, which, good for him. That's where he's from, and that's his background. That's what it felt like to me. But, yeah, it didn't feel like the biggest show we've seen. We've seen certainly bigger shows. We've seen way more controversial shows at the Super Bowl. We've seen worse. Rolling Stones were extremely boring when they were out there. I thought the actual performance, like the spectacle of it, like I liked Kendrick Lamar last year. I thought that was great. So I think in that sense, but you know what it did do? Like, I was out at my in-laws' house, and like they're, late 60s. They're not like watching R-rated movies. Like, they could enjoy it, as could my 10-year-old nephew. And like nobody was offended by that. So I think that that aspect of it, I thought was particularly successful, that we're not up here today being like, can you believe Justin Timberlake, Janet Jackson over? He did that again. Like, there was no controversy, I thought, whatsoever.
Yeah, just fun. Like, get up and dance music, even if you don't understand what he's saying. I know Puerto Rican Spanish especially is hard even for fluent Spanish speakers to understand, because the dialect and kind of accent is just a lot different than other Spanish. But yeah, it's great music. I had a lot of fun watching it.
His streaming numbers are simply absurd. I didn't realize this, and we've started to pay attention a little bit more because we do the podcast, and you can find us on YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. He has 85 million monthly listens. He has 50 million daily streams, and he has 20 billion streams a year. 20 billion streams a year. So yeah, if you want to know why the enormous business that is the NFL would go out and try and get somebody like Bad Bunny to come in. It's like, yeah, like you said, he's the biggest star in the world. We talk a lot about Taylor Swift. Could they get Taylor? Yeah, I think they probably could. He's so much bigger than even Taylor Swift right now. Maybe not right here. Maybe not right where we are in our community.
Yeah, it's hard to comprehend that.
But everywhere else, he's as big as Taylor Swift. So, anyways, I thought it was an interesting performance. Again, a little tame for me. I was expecting more fireworks.
You wanted to see some more
I don't know
flair?
if I needed, maybe a little more excitement. But I get he was painted into a corner before the thing started. So, anyways, I thought like even Shakira and J-Lo were quite a bit more controversial.
Yeah.
They were way more controversial than we saw from Mr. Benito Bad Bunny. Anyways, Kevin Sweeney is going to join us coming up next. Stick around. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.